All right, I will kick off after some moderation delays. Welcome to the Helm Developer weekly developer call on Thursday, August the 1st, 2024. Um, the call here follows the CNCF code of conduct, so please be polite. And yeah, and we'll go into the agenda. We had some problems getting the moderator code already, so we're running a little late. I don't believe there's any discussion. So I will move on to discussion. Sorry, any announcements? I will move on to discussion. And I have the first thing, which is someone's made a fairly smallish PR to allow Helm lint to detect if chart.yaml is malformed. In the Go or the Kubernetes YAML decoding engine, it'll accept things like duplicate keys or other various kind of like not complete syntactic failure errors issues. And uh, so this PR just adds a new function to load the chart with strict the chart.yaml with strict loading and other things, strict loading, so it'll detect these issues during lint. If someone can put another set of eyes on it, that'd be awesome.
I'll take a look.
I was also organized and the second agenda item. So I spent some time and I made some examples of how to use the SDK for the docs website. I wouldn't say it's the cleanest implementation, or how do I say this? The SDK is a little bit of a it's, it's not super clean to use, maybe. So I wouldn't say this is if anybody can think of any better ideas or otherwise to make like a cleaner example code, use the SDK. That'd be much appreciated. But also this PR to document this is because it happened a few times in a row that people were asking how to use different SDK functionality. So docs seem like a reasonable thing. Evans, adding a new HTTP header and cast request.
Just before we go to that, this is for just the SDK, right? And it's added to helm.sh, right?
No,
I'm talking about the PR that I was quickly looking at it. Anyway.
Oh yes, sorry. Sorry, the docs PR, yes. that is for the Helm documentation.
Right. Cool. Yeah, it's a good addition. Needed one. So but my PR, rather my issue here is someone is asking whether they'd like to add a Helm session header, HTTP header that's sent to remote hosts. So kubectl does that. It adds kubectl-xxx header. One of them is session, and there are a couple of others. And my question here is, are there any concerns in introducing essentially a header that can be sent to any host, and what are the concerns there? And the second question there is, how do we document this, or is it document worthy?
So off the top of my head, my take would be it is slightly awkward if Kubernetes accepts a kube control session, rather than I don't know, like the header name having kube control in it is strange, but if that's what it is, then that's what it is. The other one is does the API document this anywhere? It would be good to like link to. I guess I see you've linked to KEP.
You mean the kube control one? Are you talking about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a KEP for the kube control one. So the kube control one is more for, it's like a prefix for all the kube control headers that are sent to the API server. So these ones are specific to the API servers. For like the session one, for example, is for tracking. If you have multiple kube controls running, you can track all the events from a specific kube control session. And yeah, for sysadmins and what have you, if you're tracking logs. Now, the request of this issue would like to have a same for Helm. So if you run multiple Helm CLI sessions, they'd like to be able to track that on the Kube API server. But my concern there is for like registries and other external servers that I'm into.
So I mean, it's yeah. How do I say this? You can send any header you want to any downstream service, and that service can use it, ignore it, or reject it. I can make an error, and generally things don't reject things which are unknown; they just ignore them. So my take here would be if it was sent to say an OCI registry, it would just probably ignore it, but they wouldn't do anything functionally useful. So that's kind of also why I asked about what Kubernetes does with this header. Like, is it included in logs? Is it I think somewhere in the issue when I was scanning briefly, it said that it's used to maintain like session coherency across like caching. So yeah, all these things are good as long as it doesn't. I mean, it's Kubernetes problem if it introduces a security risk, but yeah. Anyway, so I don't see any harm in adding this. I wouldn't go too far as to say that we should also send it to OCI registries, because unless the registry is going to do something useful for the client, then it's pointless. But it's not a. It's more of a. That's more of a housekeeping thing rather than a. Well, I guess strictly speaking, a registry might reject an unknown header at some point in time, so it probably should not be sent to registries. And finally, it's probably useful if the like to know what the format is. It going to be like a GUID, a UUID, or is it going to be just Helm in the current time, or what the format of the header will be? And it's probably used to include this in like if you do Helm debug to print out what your client identifying header was, so that you can go from so you can just take it from the Helm invocation and go to whatever Kubernetes does with it. That'd be my take.
So excuse me, I'm looking at the cap. Still not sure what it actually does with these headers. I mean, it looks like you supply the headers, but it doesn't say that it actually does anything with them, which is kind of odd. Is there any more? Does anybody know any more information about if you send these headers, what it does with them? And then, if they just end up being logged somewhere, does it matter if it's xkubectl? Can it be xhelm? I think there's some questions that need answered. So on that note, there was a question in the comments about whether this should be a HIP. It should require a HIP, and I think there's enough questions that it might be valuable.
Yeah, if the answers are fairly straightforward, like we would just generate a GUID, it's kube control header for whatever the KIP says, and this is what Kubernetes does with it. You know, maybe a HIP's not necessary, but if they're going to be nuanced and discussed, then
yeah, it's got a whole bunch of different flags. It's got the xkubectl command, xkubectl flags, xkubectl session, xkubectl deprecated. It's like, do we want to follow this example, or do we want to come up with our own.
At least the author was mostly interested in the session. I believe they've seen value in that. So in the opening statement, they talk about stickiness.
Sure. But that's one. Actually, there's nothing about stickiness in this. This is all about. Oh, I see. Oh, I see what he's saying. He's hoping that he's hoping that he uses session header for his load balancer so that all the requests hit the same API server.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, that's what I read into this, like audit and things like that. But functionality, I don't think there would be any functional implications of how Helm operates or how the interactions are between QBaby.
Well, I still think it would be valuable to have a KEP because there's a lot of information in this KEP that a lot of motivation and examples that might be valuable to other users other than just this one user. So I think it might be good to get some community feedback on this. That's my opinion.
Yeah. I'll ask him that. And maybe that can act as a way to document this new header. Cool.
Alrighty. I'm just keeping an eye on the time since we started late. I think Andrew wants to review your next item, Evans. Passing down username and password. This using basic auth broke us at one point, so maybe I think he wants to be extra cautious, but
oh no, Andrew has reviewed and approved it. I'm just looking for a second.
Okay. Oh, sorry, his too. I missed a check mark. I can give an official sign off. Or Joe can give official sign off.
I wonder if, considering the problem we had the last time we changed the authorization in OCI, if this should end up being an experimental or something for a time. Or I wonder if it's been. I wonder if there's. I don't know. I think I should I'll talk to Andrew and see if I can be convinced that this is safe.
Yeah, I mean, if Andrew understands that because he understands OCI spec better than at least myself.
Yeah. Well, the problem is that the OCI spec is the standard, but it's not always applied. It's not always applied the same, and so we followed a standard with an authorization utility before, and it broke a whole bunch of OCI registries that did not follow the spec the same way, and so
yes,
I'm concerned.
Yep. No. Yeah, we should be super cautious. So what happened last time, Evans, is if someone introduced the ability to just do basic auth, but it ended up the user's username and password were being sent. So if I remember OCI, you send a request with your credentials to like a auth endpoint and you get a token back. But for some reason it changes the user's name and password, and this was the intention was being sent for all the requests if they were provided in the environment, and they generally were, and it just broke everything like Azure, Quay, yeah. So what I guess what I was trying to say before is if Andrew understands the way the authorization is changing and he's happy, then that would be a strong signal to me that things are good.
Yeah.
But we should double check this because it was a big mess last time.
I'd like to know if there's a way to test against some of these other registries as well, the ones that we failed with last time.
So there was some change that led to credentials being leaked, or
not leaked. The it changed the way that credentials were presented to the registry, and while it was technically correct, they all failed to accept the credentials, and everything broke.
oh yes,
Helm became non-functional, which we'd like to avoid.
that is a valid, yes, that's valid because I think GCP, well, Google registry, I'm not sure what it's called. The username is something and the password is like a JSON object, which has colons and all sorts of things. And you can't base encode that into username colon password in the head. Yeah, I've come across that and it's just horrible. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's a valid concern. The change here the change here introduces it doesn't affect the internals of how authentication works. It's just ensuring that all these other commands have username password in the CLI. It was missing completely. So it just copies whatever that was and
Okay,
adds.
I'll take a look. Okay, I'll
Yeah.
take a look.
Okay, that's yeah.
Thank you.
All right, perfect. We've got 2 minutes left. So I added some things to the hit review. There's these are both interesting, I think. So someone wants to add a exclude. So for Helmlint's ability to exclude things which you think are valid. This seems reasonable. The only comment I was going to make is I don't think we need like an exclude file. Maybe I think maybe the linting issues could be put into chart.yaml. Because that was my take. And the other one was we don't really have time to discuss them, I guess. So the other one was if Helm is interrupted, especially the CLI, you get stuck in a pending state. And then Helm will refuse to do further operations on that release, and it's basically stuck unless you delete it. And I think even to delete it, you have to like force delete it. So there's a proposal to make Helm able to recover from the situation. I had some comments which I originally seen on the mailing list, and I checked back in the mailing list, didn't accept my email, so I need to go back. But I was just bringing these up for other people to think about.
Yeah, it's come up a few times. It usually gets rejected because it forgets a bunch of things it can break. But look again.
Already. I would quickly do assignments. Moderator next week. I can re-volunteer. Notes.
I'll try to do PR reviews. I can't do notes. I can't do anything that requires me to log in because I'm at work.
I can do notes again.
Nice. Thank you, Karen. I can do some issue triage.
Yeah, I can triage as well.
Right, I'll try and do some other reviews of things. I'll be managed to find a little bit more time. Alrighty. We are on time, so have a good day, everyone. Good night.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We'll speak next week. Thank you. Bye.